Okay, great. So welcome to this interaction. As communicated to everybody, this interaction is the Leader Factory Flow Model Demo. In this Leader Factory Flow Model Demo, what we will be doing is going over the Leader Factory Flow Model, as the name states, and just seeing how it benefits each one as an individual and how it works also in a team setting. For those of you who have teams to manage or may have the opportunity to manage different teams. So everybody here today who has joined the session is either a very close friend or somebody I'm working directly with, or family, if I can just put it that way. All right. So we have family on the podium, close friends, and people who I work with. Some of them are all three in one, right? So I want to appreciate everybody who's taken the time to be here today, just with me and go over this model as we dedicate the time to perfect it or make it better, because perfection is far from it, but just make it better and make sure that the world benefits from it. And I also want to just acknowledge a few people in the room, directly acknowledging them, because it would be not good of me to go on without acknowledging these key people, right? So first of all, I want to acknowledge my mother. She's in the Zoom. Yeah, so without her, this would not be possible because I would not be around. So Mom, thanks for joining us today. And I also want to appreciate the people I work with in the Global Leader Factory. Okay, so the Global Leader Factory is an organization that is digitalizing and decentralizing leadership. We believe that we could systematize leadership in a way that the world has never seen in this age of AI. We believe it's very possible to have leadership decentralized. That means leadership does not only have to belong to a few people, okay? Leadership is not only for the talented or the select few. Leadership could be for everyone, given you are given the chance to be empowered and you are given the necessary resources and the right tools to cultivate that leadership within you. So I do have the people who are working hard with me in the room. I have Javulile from South Africa. She's here with us. I want to just acknowledge her presence. And we may have maybe one more joining us as we go on. That's Magdalene from Kenya. She's also been helping as well. Finally, I just want to acknowledge as well the presence of Joyce and Elizabeth, who are core team members as well that I work with closely. And also to all of you, like I said, my friends and family, welcome. And I've not mentioned you by name, don't worry. I value you just as much. Okay, we just don't have the time to go over everyone. Okay, yeah, so welcome once more. Okay, so to begin the interaction, may I just know who is in a position to speak? I think I'll be very grateful if at least just one or two people can be able to speak on the forum. I know some of you are on the road, some of you are not able to engage in conversation, but if you can just indicate by show of hands, if you can be able to speak with me today, I'll really appreciate. So you can either raise your hands. Okay, so Jabu is able to speak with me today. Who else on the forum can have a conversation? Are you in the position to talk? Anybody else? Okay, I see Malakai there. Thanks for that, Malakai. Is there anybody else? You just indicate. You could also unmute your mic and speak if you're in the position to speak. Okay. All right. So as the session goes on, if you find yourself that being able to speak, please feel free to interact and don't hold anything, because this is a session that's supposed to help us share knowledge and put everything together, because this is a model that's being fine-tuned, right, and developed. Okay, so I just want to give some background. I've spent my 5 minutes doing the introductions and all, so I'll give you some background now. So the Leader Factory flow model started with me writing a book, but the book was inspired by some events and experiences that I had as I worked with different organizations, particularly when I was working in Sri Lanka and alternating between Sri Lanka and Malaysia. I got exposed to different if I could say, a variety of teams and a very horticulture environment, if I could call it that. We had different cultures coming from different parts of the world, all interacting together in one pot. And it was really fascinating to see how different perspectives, you could miss each other based on just couch context and what certain things mean certain people. It was a whole mess, right? But a whole beautiful thing at the end of the day. So because of those interactions, I was inspired to begin to write about leadership, because I asked myself the question, does leadership need to belong to a single person or a few or a small entity, or can it be decentralized? Can we cultivate leaders, no matter who it is, no matter where you're from? That question inspired my journey to write a book. Today, that book is known as the Global Leader, or the Leader Factory. All right, not the Global Leader Factory, but the Leader Factory. That's the title of the book. It's yet to be published. It's still being finalized and fine-tuned. We're still doing lots of development, because we need to meet certain standards internationally that would help us sell the book, right? But that is what led to that book. But when the book began, those who are with me through the journey, the book did not begin as the Leader Factory. It began as the 22nd century leader, who I was defining a certain type of leader, but then eventually it evolved into a manuscript that helps develop leaders. Okay. So in that book, at the heart of the book is a model. This model is supposed to help to systematically develop leaders, okay, at the heart of the book. Now, the model has reached a point where it needs to hit the ground and get tested. We need live testing for this model in order for us to see how it works, who it impacts, and who it's best for. But for us to implement that live testing, which is being called a pilot study, we need your feedback and your input to be able to keep developing it and keep fine-tuning it, so that we can be able to see how best, what we can add, what we can remove, and how best we can move with it going forward. So currently we have different organizations that we're trying to get on board all around the continent, like within Kenya, South Africa, and different other regions that we're targeting to try and get this pilot study off, up and going. In Zambia, we do have organizations like World Vision that we're trying to also get on board to firm up and try to see how we could get this pilot study going. Okay. So that's a little bit of a background. So being here today is a great opportunity for us to pioneer this together. If it hits the ground running and the tests are going great, we do raise enough capital to fund it further, we will be telling this story at the end of the day, that everybody in this room, we were part of a great beginning that simply started by this online Zoom meeting, probably, and turned out into a massive, innovative idea that could actually change the world. Okay, so with that background, let me now go into the presentation. So allow me to ask a question just to break the ice. For those who can respond, please do so. So what do you think the difference is between effectiveness and efficiency? Is anybody able to share their view? What do you think the difference is between effectiveness and efficiency? Any thoughts from the audience? For those who can type in the chat box, feel free to do so. Is anybody able to assist? Jabu, can you help me maybe break the ice? Because right now I'm the only one talking.
The English, that's a bit tricky, but hi everyone. In simple terms, effective is whether something works at all, and efficient I would define as how well it works.
Yeah, I actually, that's actually a very good and simplified difference. And it actually gets us going with the discussion today. Effective is if something actually works at all and delivers the objective. Efficient, on the other hand, is how well it does it, right? So normally when we are executing tasks, whatever task it is, when we're doing something, you could either be effective, you could be efficient, or you could be both. Okay. Sometimes you could be so good at a task, but it gets you nowhere. You're not actually achieving the objective that you need to achieve, right? But you're really good at it and you're doing it right. The speed, the cost efficiency is on point, but at the end of the day, you're not really going anywhere. But then sometimes you could be on point with a task. It's actually getting the job done, but it's doing it at a really huge cost and it's so inefficient, right? So these are two problems that we grapple with whenever we are working with tasks, okay? Effective and efficient. And sometimes some models or materials or frameworks would help you sort out one thing. It will help you get more effective, but then at the expense of your efficiency. Sometimes some models help you get more efficient, but at the expense of how effective you are trying to be, you have to be, right? But not with the leader factory flow model. Today, the leader factory flow model that I present to each one of you is meant to help you become both effective and efficient as you carry out whatever task that you're carrying out towards a particular goal or objective. I hope that introduction piques your interest well enough to be able to see what this model actually has to offer for everybody. Okay, so that is the leader factory flow model. It's meant to accelerate your strategic execution, right? And eliminate collaborative friction for those working in teams, and also work continuous peer initiatives. Okay, and we'll be diving into this as we get into the crux of the conversation. Okay, so I'll just go over what we've just talked about. Being effective means doing the right things, right? It's about the strategic alignment. If you're talking corporate, or if you're talking about your strategy to do with business, you're talking about the vision, especially at the highest level, right? You're talking about the destination. Where are we heading and why are we heading there, right? Will this truly solve the primary problem that we have? These questions have to do with effectiveness, okay? Now, when we talk about efficiency, efficiency basically is about doing things the right way, right? This is about process optimization, execution velocity, and minimizing friction, right? It answers how fast, how smoothly, and if we are using few resources to achieve maximum output, right? So that is basically what efficiency is all about, okay? So now that we've gone through the difference between the two, let us then dive into how the model then begins to work towards bringing us to this point of being more effective and being efficient. And to do that, let's explore why it matters for us to carry out tasks in a way that is both efficient and effective, okay? So to understand why it matters to carry out tasks in both an efficient way and an effective way, we could look at a few ideas that I've just laid down. I've just laid down 3 ideas. But first, we could look at the fact that there has to be a core intersection to every task that we do. I think I spoke on this earlier, right? We don't have to be effective and neglect efficiency, and we don't have to be efficient and neglect effectiveness. We can have both. There is an intersection, and there should be an intersection. But at the end of the day, if we focus on our efficiency, every task, I believe, should be executed with the maximum velocity, right? That means a task should have an ideal speed, because anybody who knows anything about an opportunity, anything that knows anything about getting something done, it has to be done on time. If it is not done on time, you miss the opportunity, you miss the outcome, you miss whatever it is that you had to get. And that is why efficiency is so important, right? But at the end of the day, it also comes down to the initiative that drives us as we carry out these tasks. the initiative has to be on point in the sense that the initiative that we exercise has to be able to deliver the outcome. That's about effectiveness, right? It has to deliver the outcome. Not just about how well, but it has to deliver the outcome. So these are the three core pillars as to why it matters for every task to be both effective and efficient. Okay. Okay, so let's then look at the leader factory flow model itself. How does it help us achieve being both effective and efficient? How does it go there? How does it get us there? So it gets us there using an 8-phase leader journey. This journey has got 8 phases, and I'll just run you through the 8 phases just to show you, give you an idea, right? Okay, so when it comes to the 8 phases, I'll first focus on the first 4 that help us build the momentum. So when we look at the first 4 phases, the first phase is to set the ambitious goal. Now, everybody has somewhere they want to be probably in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years, in the next 20 years, maybe even 50 years. Maybe some of us have thought that far about our lives. But setting the ambitious goal means we want to ask ourselves, what is it that I want to achieve that is outside my current resource frontier? That simply means if I want to achieve a goal, right, and I know that I have the resources to achieve that goal, I have the capacity to achieve that goal, it's not really an ambitious goal. I think you could agree with me on this. If I said today that I want to make, let's say, I want to make 2,000 kwacha by the end of the month, right? If I just put it that way, for me personally, that is not an ambitious goal, right? Because I know that it's within my resource frontier, okay? If I said I wanted to go to town tomorrow, I know that I'm going to go to town tomorrow because it's within my resource frontier. I can afford and I have the capacity to do it. But then if I change the conversation, if I say I want to be able to make $8,000 at the end of the month, now that's an ambitious goal. Because my mind itself asks me the question, where do I begin, right? Where do I even start from? If I'm going to make $8,000 at the end of the month, what do I even do? Now that's an ambitious goal because it's outside my resource frontier. I can't afford it and I do not have the capacity to make $8,000 at the end of the month. And I believe these are the goals that matter the most to us because these are the goals that move us from where we are to where we want to be, right? Because these are the goals that burn deeply within each and every one of us, within each organization, no matter how big, no matter how small. An organization can be a multi-sector organization or can be in different countries, a multi-national organization, right? But they still have those ambitious goals. They're still asking themselves, how can we conquer this territory? How can we conquer that territory? How can we get our products to this place? They still have those ambitious goals. And those are the ones that we're defining in stage 1. So if you do have an ambitious goal, then I do believe that this model could also work for you. And we could see how we could apply it for ourselves. Having the ambitious goal, we could ask ourselves, what are the areas of growth that I should be looking at for me to build the capacity needed for me to achieve this ambitious goal? I'll give an example of the goal I gave, making $8,000 by the end of the month. If I set this goal today, the first question I'll have to ask myself is which areas do I need to grow in for me to build the capacity to achieve the goal? So that even if I did not make $8,000 at the end of the month, at least I'll be 10% closer to it. I'll be much closer to it than I was today because I have built the capacity. That those growth areas that I focused on, right? Those are the areas that you need to define, those growth areas. And maybe we'll look at an example. If time will allow, we can look at an example to see how we could break down these activities and see how it actually applies using the model, right? So then when we define our growth areas, we want to ask ourselves the next question: who do I need to become for me, right, to contribute to these growth areas that I've just defined? Okay, so using the example of me making $8,000, let's say I can make $8,000, hypothetically speaking, if I published a book. Okay, let's just give that as an example. If I published a book, let's say I've done my market research, the demand is ripe, and I knew, all right, the chances of me making $8,000 if I publish this book are very high. So my growth area will focus on me improving or upgrading systems, processes, in order for me to get that book published. Those are the growth areas that I'll be focusing on. For example, making sure the book formatting is right, making sure that the book is making sure that the book is published on the right platforms. Like those are the growth areas I'm thinking about, right? I'm trying to expand in those areas. But then the person I need to become then to achieve those growth areas is a different conversation, right? I'm then asking myself, okay, for me to come up with a great marketing strategy, maybe that's in the growth area. I need to come up with a good marketing strategy. Who do I need to become to put in place a great marketing strategy? Because it's not anyone that can put in place a great marketing strategy. You need to be a certain type of person for you to put in place a great marketing strategy, right? So there's somebody you need to become, or you need to work towards becoming, for you to be able to put in place a great marketing strategy. And maybe, who knows, probably becoming is not a journey of 1,000 years or 100 years or even 20 or 10. Becoming, you could do one thing today that could get you closer to becoming the person that you need to become to achieve or to contribute to the growth areas that you need to contribute to, right? Then we have the fourth, the atomic actions. This is now where I then ask myself, what can I do today to become the person I need to become? If I need to set up a very good marketing strategy for my book launch, right? I need to become a person who can communicate big, great ideas in a very simple and effective way. Okay, so I've defined the person I need to become. Okay, but to do this, what can I do today? How about I record myself talking about the book and I post it on Instagram, on social media, TikTok, Facebook? What if I did that, right? Okay, so if I can do that today, I have my smartphone, I can record a video, I'm going to do it. I'll get the phone, record it. I am becoming the person that I need to become through these atomic actions that I can get done today, right? So you're asking yourself, what can I do immediately for me to begin to become the person that I need to become to deliver the outcome that needs to be delivered, right? Okay, so that's that's how the first four phases are looking. Before I go on, just let me check, am I good? Can anybody hear me? Can people still hear me? Just give me a thumbs up. Thanks for that, Elizabeth. How about others? Thank you, Joyce. All right, great. So people are still in the room. Thank you for that. If you don't mind, as we go on, I will get into a demo session, and I'll do a check again for those who can speak and then so that way we see how we can get more interactive at that point on the demo session. So I should be transitioning to the demo session in the next 5 to 10 minutes. Let's give it 10, all right? And we'll transition. So let me go through quickly the next steps, which is from phase 5 to 8, and what phase 5 to 8 are meant to accomplish. So phase 5 to 8 are the scaling phase. Now you've built your momentum. So now that you've built your momentum, let's see how we could scale or take it all out, right? So 5 then begins to track your progress. We provide the tool necessary for you to track your progress, to know how well you are doing in real time. Then we provide a framework that helps you with task analysis. This framework is known as the task framework. It is the heart of the model that we are discussing today. And even the book that I've written goes in depth trying to explain how the model works, or how the framework works and what it's about. And I will give you a general idea in today's presentation. Then we design our environment, because ultimately what we should understand is that no success can come if your environment does not equip you for success. Your environment needs to equip you for success. So if I want to be, if I want to grow in myself and develop this great marketing strategy, I need to then begin to take small actions that will get me there. Like, for example, communicating big ideas in a very simple and effective way. So that means probably going on social media, learning how to communicate through social media and stuff like that. If I'm going to do that, my environment has to allow it, right? If I'm always in a place that has no network, for example, if I'm always in a place where I cannot record any video because of maybe my background, I will never record that video. No matter how simple it looks to record a video, I will never do it because my environment does not support it. So whatever action, no matter how small, is supposed to be supported by the environment. But if you're going to support an action, it has to happen in two ways. It has to happen from the social perspective and from the technical perspective. When I am recording a video and I'm trying to post it on social media and my environment, I have people who are telling me, hey, what are you doing? Mocking me, making fun of me. The likelihood that I'll continue that action is very low, right? But if I have a supportive social environment, giving me ideas, supporting me in how I'm doing it and all that, then I will, the chances of me executing those tasks daily are going to increase. That's what designing your environment is all about, right? Then finally, if you have a well-designed environment, then you just wait for your legacy to begin to unfold and begin to flow. That's where your legacy begins, because then that environment will reinforce your habits. Your habits will then lead you to your destiny, right? Yeah. So I don't have to even say much about that because I'm sure we've heard many motivational talks about habits and how they help you achieve goals and whatnot. Yeah, so I'll not dwell on that. Okay, so those are the 8 phases that the leader factory flow model follows. So far, I hope somebody in the room right now is thinking, okay, maybe this is actually something I can apply for myself. Because this is something I personally use myself as well. I've been using it, I think from the beginning of the year, right? I have been using the model and I have been seeing how it has been benefiting me, right? Personally, on a personal level. So if it is something that you're wondering whether you could actually apply for yourself or not, you can. And I'll be demonstrating through the practical session within the next 5 minutes or so, or 7 minutes actually, on how we could get that done. Okay, so now let me just run through the task framework and how it helps you to filter your actions throughout the process. Because if you have your goal and you define who you want to become, who you have to become, and then you ask yourself what you have to do today, there has to be a way in which you consistently evaluate the things that you're doing. You have to evaluate every time. Am I doing the right thing? Is it leading me to the right place? Am I wasting time? Am I wasting energy? These are questions that are consistently supposed to be in your mind. Because the moment you become a robot, you just start doing activities, you're just doing tasks, or not, you don't even know. If you look back the past 4 weeks, you don't know what you've done, what you haven't done. That's not a good way to live your life, because eventually you find yourself living a life that you did not plan for. You find yourself drifting from what it is actually you wanted to achieve in your own life, right? So you need to have a way in which to keep your lens focused. And that is exactly what the task framework does. The task framework is a lens, right, that you could use to diagnose every task that comes your way. And I'm going to show you how that is done today, right? So to give you the idea, I like to tell my friends, even I have a niece, and I remember having a conversation with her one time, and I asked her, do you know the greatest superpower anybody could have? And she said, what is it? And I told her, the greatest superpower that somebody could have is the ability to say no, right? The ability to say no could actually determine your destiny, because it is not about the things we say yes to in life. It's about the things we say no to in life. Because when we say no to something, we automatically create space for something that has to be on your priority list, something that has to get done, to be done, and something that has to be brought to reality, right? So if you can say no to the things that don't matter, automatically you create space for the things that matter. But saying no is not easy, because you have to understand what is it that I have to say no to. That's the thing. So it's not really easy to say no, right? That's why we end up saying yes every time. A certain job comes your way, yes. An opportunity comes your way, yes. this comes over, yes, we have to be able to know what exactly to say no to. The task framework helps us with this. So let me just run you through quickly on how the task framework helps us achieve this objective. Okay, so this is the task diagnostic tool, and this is how it helps us say no to the things that don't really matter. So first of all, the task framework is as it is, task, T-A-S-K. So these are the 4 letters that I personally use, and in the Global Leader Factory, these are the 4 letters that we are pioneering that you could use to analyze your tasks, even as you execute the model. T stands for time, A stands for actions, S stands for size, and K stands for knowledge. That's basically the framework. But now what does it mean? So T basically is asking yourself a very important question. Does this task align with my priorities? So T is not about the time on the clock. No, it's about your priorities, because time is not measured by the hours that move. Time is measured by the priorities that you keep, right? Yeah, so that's what we're asking ourselves for T. A is asking ourselves, does the task mean something to me? In other words, A is just not about doing something, it's about doing something with purpose, doing something with meaning, right? Yeah. S, does this task match my personal capacity? Sometimes we bite more than we can chew, right? And it's very common. It happens to the best of us, okay? We bite more than we can chew. And when we do that, we burn out, we waste a lot of energy, and it's just a mess. So we ask ourselves, am I actually doing something that is in line with my capacity? Am I shortchanging myself? Sometimes we shortchange ourselves. You could actually be doing more than you are doing, but because you've not properly assessed your capacity and tried to match it with the task, you end up doing less than you could actually do. And then K finally is asking, do I have enough knowledge, or do I have the environment that is going to empower me with the knowledge for me to execute this task? Sometimes you don't really have to know, but you need the environment that will empower you to know. If you can have an environment that will empower you to know, it's enough. But you have to ask yourself the question, do I have the environment or the knowledge itself? How does this help us in terms of filtering and saying no to the things that don't matter? If we know the prioritize, we say no to calendar clogging distractions. I can assure you every week has got tasks on the calendar that you'd rather not be doing, because that task could either be delegated, that task could be avoided, that task you could pay somebody to do what you're doing, but you end up doing it because it's on your calendar list. Those are the tasks we should be saying no to. So analyzing tasks, filtering them through the task framework helps us identify and catch those tasks easily, so that we can filter them out and remove those tasks quickly, say no to them. Meaning, right? How do we say no to the mindless and the hollow obligations, right? Because there are so many things that we'd be doing, but they are not actually giving you a sense of purpose or meaning, right? They're actually taking away from the sense of purpose or meaning, and that eventually it affects you, right? So you could say no by identifying these tasks and filtering them out. Also, when it comes to size, you say no to too overwhelming projects or those that are not as challenging. A task needs to be challenging enough for you to do it. If it's not challenging enough, it will not excite you. But if it's too challenging to overwhelm you, so you just need the right balance, right, for you to be able to get it done right. But you need to analyze those atomic actions that you're carrying out every day. And then finally, with the knowledge, you can say no to blind execution tasks. My friend Jabulile here is a big fan of not doing things blindly. She doesn't like it. So she always tells me, get all the information you need before you involve me in whatever it is that you want me to do. That's a very good way to say no to blind execution traps. Why? So if we look at how this benefits us as far as being effective or efficient is concerned, I have separated these tasks, the framework, to help us know what would make us more effective and what would make us more efficient. So when you look at the time, prioritizing helps us become more effective because you actually do something that is valuable and will lead to the outcome, okay, to your ambitious goal, right? When it comes to actions, if you do things that give you a deep sense of meaning, that meaning boosts the quality, right, and thoughtfulness of the output. You actually do something well because it means something to you. If it doesn't mean anything to you, you're not doing well, right? You just do it for the sake of doing it. Size. If you break down tasks properly to match your capacity, it keeps you efficient because you can know your current energy and your limits, right? And finally, with knowledge, by providing you with the tools and the psychological safety to understand tasks, it can help you be more efficient. But then these also then feed into the opposite. By prioritizing, it can make you effective primarily, but it then makes you more efficient, and so on and so forth. So it creates a loop where you begin then to interact with effectiveness and efficiency as you carry out your tasks. And you get better and better as you go along. And what happens is that you have this task dependency analysis where more of your tasks, in this case, this pie chart shows 75%, but more of the tasks that you carry out within a particular period of time are tasks that totally depend on you, tasks that actually move the needle and make things happen, right? Rather than tasks that depend on other people. If you're in an organization, you could say that 75% of your activities within a particular period are tasks that are actually centered around the resources and the capabilities that your department or your team has currently, rather than depending on management and the like. If it's a country, we could, using this task framework and the leader factory flow model, we could get to a point where we actually carry out tasks that we, with our resources and our capacity, could drive. We could drive those initiatives. And that way we would not have to depend on government or other forms of support for us to do those activities. But it starts with us bringing the focus and the attention for us to make it happen. And this model, with this framework, the task framework, is meant to help us get to that place. And everybody here could help us build a successful model that could help us get to that point. This marks the end of the first part of the presentation. This is me, Favor Msonda, representing the Global Leader Factory team, empowering every voice to lead. You could check out our website at www.goftraining.com, and you could read more about what it is that we are up to and what we are doing. Okay, so that's about the presentation, the first part of it. So can I get some reactions in the room? Anybody to unmute and just say something from what they heard. I think that's going to motivate me enough to then just do a quick run through within the next 15 minutes of the practical side of things. So can I get some initial reactions? From what I remember, yes, Elizabeth, please go ahead.
Thank you, Favor. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
You mentioned something interesting when you mentioned the phases, to say there are 4 phases for building the momentum.
Mm-hmm.
So I noticed that most of the times we tend to overlook like the third phase, which says the person you need to become.
Mm-hmm.
At times when we have our ambitious goals, we just tell ourselves, okay, what are the growth areas that I can look into? And then we tend to identify opportunities which are external, and we forget to look at those opportunities which are internal, that is looking at the person that you're supposed to become in order to achieve those goals.
Yeah.
So yeah,
thank you very much for that observation, Elizabeth, and it's actually very insightful. Thanks for that. If this was a physical meeting, I would have given you a hand, all of us, but then it's an online meeting. So guys, feel free to react with the emojis and anybody else to come in with another observation, reaction from the audience today. Last I checked, Malachi was in a position to speak. Are you still in a position to speak, Malachi?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Any initial thoughts or reactions? Hello?
Sorry, I didn't get the question.
Yes, I was saying any initial thoughts or reactions from the presentation.
Um, so my observation has been from the time you started the presentation, you were differentiating um efficiency and effectiveness, and to me that's something I find quite interesting because I think we we mostly follow one or follow the other without the knowledge of how they both can work together. And I think having unearthed the whole framework of how these two can actually work together is quite very insightful to me.
Okay, thank you very much for those insights, Malachi. Can we get one last initial reaction from anybody? I think I've seen Chimumwe has joined us. Chimumwe, are you in a position to speak? I think the time when I asked, I don't know if you are available. Okay, no reaction there. How about Magdalene? Are you in a position to just give a reaction before we proceed?
Maybe to comment on the saying no to. As you had hinted earlier, sometimes we look at saying yes to this, saying yes to a few things, and we forget the ones we are supposed to say no to. And from your model there, the no gives the strength to the model. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that reaction, Magdalene. Okay, so thanks everybody for tuning in up to this point. So I just want to rush quickly and just give you, show you where this model sits. So right now, as we speak, there are two ways that you could use this model. We could print out paper, right? And actually fill in some of these things using paper. Or, and that probably would also be done when we get to publish the book, the Leader Factory book. We will have a paperback that will have the model itself that you could work with. So you could look forward to that. Alternatively as well, we have it sitting on Excel, okay? We have it sitting on Excel. So Excel could help you actually track, define your ambitious goal, and break down the steps needed for you to achieve that ambitious goal, all the way up to the analysis with the task framework and all that, okay? And we actually thinking as we go along, we'll form a community of people who are actually actively using the Global Leader Factory Flow model so that we could shape ideas together, get feedback, and learn from each other and continue interacting, because the task framework, for example, has to be understood in context through experience and stuff like that. We have to see how it works, and we have to be able to see how best we can break down goals and define things properly. So this can only be done in practice, and for that we need to create the community, the support that is needed for us to build. Through this, as we develop these processes, what we'll initially eventually land to is building an application, a digital application that can help us to be able to execute the model. So the application will have an inbuilt coach that will be able to walk you through, help you break down the ambitious goal, and help you define the key important areas that need to be defined. So with artificial intelligence coming on board, we feel like this is a great opportunity for us to be able to establish this model using an application as well that will help us scale it further and help the world access it better. Okay, so that's about where we are now and where we're going. So let me just then run you through quickly how it sits on Excel and how you could use it for yourself. So if those who are interested, we can continue the conversations after the presentation and see how you could actually access this for yourself and use it for yourself. Okay, so I'll share my screen. Here is the model. So remember the 8 phases, they all sit here in these sheets, right? So an Excel sheet has got these at the bottom, it has got these extra sheets that you could form. So all 8 phases are seated down here. So there's the ambitious goal is seated there. So this is an example, for example, that I put down there for you to be able to use and understand how the model is working once you access it. So an example here that I put for the ambitious goal is to significantly contribute to poverty reduction by empowering my local community through personal initiatives and resourcefulness. So we could put a time period to it. We could put different measurements to it to make it more smart, because the goal is to have it smart as possible. And to do that, it should be measurable and all the other attributes that a SMART goal follows, right? But this is just a rough general idea. It's a subject to improvement, all right? So if you take a goal like this, where you're saying you want to contribute to poverty reduction within your community, you could establish growth areas. So your growth areas, then you're asking yourself, what do we need to change, or how do we need to change to get to the ambitious goal? So you could look at things like improving healthcare. You could look at things like improving education, improving infrastructure. There are so many other things that you could do, so many growth areas that you could focus on for you to get to the goal of poverty reduction. Because if you have a better healthcare, definitely you'll be able to reduce poverty as an effect, right? If you have better education, as an effect, you can reduce poverty over a period of time. It cannot happen like in 5 years generally, or 2 years. It has to be a long period of time. That's the thing about such a goal. When it comes to poverty reduction, you have to observe it over a long period of time. But then you can go to your categories, like the one that then states, who must I become to influence these growth areas? So remember, we listed down the growth areas, which is improving healthcare, improving education, and improving infrastructure, right? You're writing down, you could write down why it's important as well. It helps you think through what you're saying. So if you write improving healthcare, why is it important? You could talk about how that then translates into poverty reduction, and so on and so forth. But the categories, so you could say, this is now who we need to become, right? So every statement in the category begins with the word become, right? So you could become better at taking care of your personal health. That itself could lead to improving healthcare, because deteriorating healthcare is not just about the members of staff at the clinic. It's also about how you take care of your health. My good friend Chimomo, he's on the forum today. He likes to tell me that one of the challenges that hospitals face is that people report cases late. I think I do have also another doctor. So yeah, one of the biggest challenges that are there in the hospital is people report cases late. Like, why were you all this time? Why are you coming here now, right? Yeah. So being better at taking care of the personal health. If we had, let's say, 50 people within a certain community doing this, and that community has got 10,000 people, those 50 could become the spark needed to affect the entire community. But a model like this could help people really think about some of the actions that they take and some of the decisions that they make for them to actually change the behavior and become the people that they need to become, right? Yeah, so become probably a community health volunteer. Sometimes government doesn't need to hire or employ more people into the health sector for us to have better healthcare. We could have volunteers, right? I know of organizations that are doing this. They are using volunteers to help with simple things like, not simple, but with things that have common knowledge, like delivering babies, and other things that could be helped through volunteer work. We have the organizations are available that are doing this. I think AMREF as well. AMREF Kenya is actually has a model that actually focuses on solutions like this. But my point is not to promote or to exhort or praise something that other organizations are doing, because this is not about executing things at organizational level. This is about executing something at personal level. So if a person can decide that they can be a volunteer today because of the goal that they have to contribute to reducing poverty, then we know that the model is working, right? So become a better health educator. Sometimes it just takes sharing the right health knowledge, nutrition, diet, exercise and stuff like that, just to build a better health community. And that in itself could help reduce poverty within the next 10, 20, 50 years if this became a culture, right? Then if we talk about education, we're talking about becoming a literacy mentor, maybe if you're somebody who's educated, also maybe become a supplier of educational materials, and you could go through probably some of these other tasks by yourself. I just wanted to give you an idea of how the person that you need to become affects directly the growth area, which then affects the ambitious goal. So it causes this ripple effect. So then we then break down the category, which is the person you want to become, to the action. What do I need to do today to get started? So let's ask ourselves, if I want to become better at taking care of my personal health, in order to contribute to poverty reduction in the long run, right? Because I'm imagining this maybe in a team setting. Let's say we've got implementers all over across, let's say, Africa to be ambitious, right? And they've got this project. And let's say within each facilitation group, we have, let's say, 50 people participating, right? Yeah, so you could do, these people could come up with activities that could then translate into culture, habits, which then translates into culture. So things like I would eat one fruit this week to improve my vitamin intake. That's an action that somebody could take today. Some people don't know when last time they ate something that could improve their vitamin intake, right? Eating vegetables, right? Eating a balanced meal. This was something that I saw even back then when I worked in communities in remote areas. They don't know what a balanced meal is, right? Some of them, right? So these are things that could be done to improve personal health care, right? Taking medication consistently if you've been prescribed any medication, right? Making new friends that do not have bad habits, like maybe smoking or drinking excessively, which could lead to certain accidents or stuff like that, right? Yeah, so you could even have a section that actually demands social or physical proof that you've done something. This is what we call the receipt. So you could have this receipt. This receipt could actually help you keep yourself accountable using the receipt. So this is an idea of the breakdown. I hope this gives you an idea of how you move from the ambitious goal to the activities that you're doing on a weekly basis. By the way, we are targeting a week when it comes to these activities. Whatever activities you list down in your atomic areas, try to accomplish them within the week and move on to the next set of activities, keep redefining them. So how do you track this? This is where you go then into the tracking, right? So you track this using the tracker that we made down there. So for every category, we list down the categories there. If you completed a set of actions that you listed within a particular week for that category, you can tick the arc. So an arc is a part of a circle, right? That's an arc. So if you complete a circle, 360 degrees, you've got arcs joining together to complete the circle, which forms a complete cycle. So hence the word arcs, to define a complete set of actions within an area of growth. So these are technical terms just to understand how the model works. But ideally, if you complete a set of actions within a particular growth area, you tick the box. You do it, you tick the box. So ideally, you want to have all the boxes checked for that particular week, meaning you did all the actions necessary to contribute to the growth areas, which are the categories that you listed for that particular week. The idea is if you do this consistently, right, for the next 13 weeks, if you do this consistently for 13 weeks, you should be able to assess how well you have improved and how much closer or confident you are to getting closer to your ambitious goal. You may not know it from a quantitative point of view, but you can be able to determine it from a qualitative point of view because you feel more innovative, you feel more passionate, you feel more inspired, you have more initiative about the situation and the matter, right? That's how you're able to assess your progress. And we do it every after 13 weeks. We make sure that we take you through a cycle of analysis, which is the cyclic diagnostic using the task framework. So this is why you're asking yourself those questions that we were listing down, right? Right, with the time, actions, am I prioritizing? Is this giving me purpose? So we go through, we reflect on these actions that you are taking. We reflect on them. The actions that you are taking, how are they? How was your experience? Did you have actions that delayed? Maybe because they did not give you a sense of purpose. How did you handle them? So we have that conversation. We reflect. We try to track the data. It's very difficult to track the data all at once using Excel, but we do what we can for now while we build systems like AI and an app that could then keep track of all the activities that you've actually done and could actually help you interrogate activities properly, right? But for now, we just do what we can using the Excel sheet to help you manage your week and eventually manage your year. Because every week, every 13 weeks, you do your analysis. That's probably a quarter of the year. You do that 4 times. That's a full complete year using the model, right? Yeah. And every time you do the diagnosis using the task framework, you ask yourself very important questions. What physical tool, digital process, or environmental change will I make to make me more effective? Which means you're looking at your physical environment. What can I change to make me more effective? For some of the tasks, maybe you could be challenged because of the technology around you, right? Maybe you're not eating healthy because you've got a deep fryer, right, in your kitchen, and that deep fryer is always tempting you to make the oily meals that are not going to probably benefit you in any way. If you identify this as one of the reasons why you're probably not carrying out the tasks that you need to carry out, then you do what you have to do. Get rid of that deep fryer. Get something more effective. Maybe, something more effective like an air fryer, maybe, right? So these are the questions you ask yourself. What physical tools or anything can I change in my environment to make me more effective and to make me more efficient? Also, you ask yourself, who do I need to inform? What group do I need to belong to? Who do I need to associate with to make me more effective or more efficient? Maybe you're not keeping yourself healthy because of your associates, the environment you're found in, who you're talking to, the people advising you. To change those associates, you begin to change your behavior, which makes the atomic actions that you listed move more smoothly, right? So how do you know if those atomic actions are moving or not? These atomic actions that we're listing. In the category tracker, remember I mentioned that you have to strike this arc, complete the whole by checking all the boxes, right? Well, the trick is you only check a box if you complete all the actions that you listed within that category. And it has to be done within the week. So if within the week, you only manage to do 3 complete activities, and you postpone the activities to the next week. The next week, you only manage to do 2, you postpone to the other week until you complete all your actions. When you complete all your actions, finally, if it took you 4 weeks to complete your actions, what does that tell you? You're not efficient. You need to speed up your process. There are probably clogs in your environment that are making you lag, making you not to do the things that you have to be doing, because it's taken you 4 weeks to complete the actions that you need to complete within a week, right? And we have ways of calculating these things. Now we'd have to do them manually. That's why we're talking about a community to actually work this thing out. But as we go, this thing transitions into a very smooth, seamless process, because all these things will be happening in the background. You don't need to know about these things happening. All you need to do is define your ambitious goal and where you want to be and start breaking down the actions, right? But the system will keep on processing all this stuff in the background, right? But at least by those few committed people in this room that would help us use this model, even as detailed as it is now, right? Because the detail sometimes comes with a little bit of complexity. Those who will be able to help us use this model now will be helping us shape it up and build a better future for everybody, because we can be able to build leadership and instill leadership in people all around the world. And that is where the emergence of leadership comes in. We have identified habits that we want to track, habits that help you cast your vision right, habits that help you learn how to delegate, because like I said, some tasks are not worth it. Some tasks can be done by others, and some tasks can just be completely avoided. We want to see how you begin to share responsibility, how you begin to be more accountable. We want to see how you improve your smart management, how you maximize potential, and all these things. By observing these habits, we can know that the Leader Factory model is actually developing leaders all around the world. That marks the end of the presentation. I hope it was very insightful for everybody on the forum today. Before we leave, I know we've hit our mark, which is 1 hour. It's now 20 hours, but before we just end, can we dedicate 2 minutes to remarks? Any final remarks from anybody before we conclude today's session? Yes, Chabulile.
Presentation. Hope you can hear me.
Yes.
As you were going through the Excel sheet, just a couple of thoughts were coming through my mind, and it's probably something you can consider right now. I understand that the Excel sheets is there because things like the app are still being developed and all of that, right? But just a cautionary tale, if I can say, because this exercise, there are aspects of it that are supposed to be very introspective, right? And reflective. I think some of those can be transferred to having to write them down because there's something about putting pen to paper that allows you to connect deeply with the concept or to process it a lot better than putting it on an Excel sheet. The exercise example that talks about who you have to be and things of that nature. I think that I'd feel very disconnected from it if I was just typing it on an Excel sheet, because Excel is for keeping record. It's not for reflecting. So just think about things from that premise until I guess an app is developed. I think the app can actually be like the best of both worlds because at least with AI and things of that nature, it can kind of feel like you're talking to someone on the other side and can prompt you to reflect. But an Excel sheet doesn't do that. So those are just my thoughts.
Thank you for that, Javo. And yeah, definitely something that will be, and even in the publishing of the book, will be considered very highly. Yes, Rose.
Hello, thank you so much for the presentation. My internet has been so bad, but what I got so far is I love how the presentation was able to break down a big goal into smaller growth areas and practical actions that makes the goal feel more achievable and easier to track over time. And however, I wanted to ask, does the proposed time frame take into account any external challenges that may affect implementation or resources, or are there any common challenges that may be resolved as time goes by, or are there challenges that cannot be resolved but are still taken into account as the process is ongoing? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that, Rose. So just to react quickly to Rose's question, initially when the model was designed, what we did is that we set it in stone that a task has to be done within a week. That's what we did, right? And if it's not done within a week, you quickly rub off the tasks that you had the last week and you come up with new tasks that you need to do this week, right? You move to the next week and you leave boxes unchecked. But then we realized that it doesn't really help us to do the things that we need to do because, like Rosa said, some things take time to be able to get into it to do, right? Some things do take time for that. But it doesn't mean we should move it out of our to-do list or move it out of the atomic actions that should be done or even ignore it, right? Or postpone it. We should still lock in and focus on doing it. But the thing is, how much time it will take for us to do it will vary. It might take probably 1 week for one, it might take 2 or 4 for another. But I think the goal, because we focus on trying to be more effective and efficient, the goal at the end of the day is to reduce the time frame in which we're able to do a particular task. It's very allowed at the beginning of you using the model to take time to do complete them with a certain period of time that is not even close to a week. It's very allowed for that at the beginning of the model. But as time goes on, the goal is to become more effective, which means we know what we need to do to get the result, and we get good at doing it. So but we cannot do the introspection that Javo was talking about. We need to keep reflecting and keep introspecting, and then eventually it happens. I don't know if that answers the question, Rose.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you as well. So, well, I gave you 5 minutes. Unless you have any other hand, but 5 minutes is up. We need to be closing today's session. Okay. So once again, I want to thank you all for attending today's session. We may plan to have more of this, especially as we get to grow the community and those people actively using the model. For those who need to go through what has been discussed today, we will have a recording. I'll have it uploaded on my YouTube channel, and I'll share the link so that you can be able to access it and watch it. That's for everyone who attended today's session. I'll share the link to you all. Thank you very much for joining us today, and it's a bye-bye and a good night for me and the team.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.